There are over 100 decisions when it comes to property investing. Buy-to-let or flip, single-let or HMO, residential or commercial, growth or cash flow, personal name or limited company, BRRR or flip, which city, which area, which street, transport links, school, demand, supply, regeneration, crime, employment, mortgage type, fixed or variable, interest only or repayment, bridging or buy-to-let, deposit size, broker, cash buffer, refinance timing, property type, layout, condition, structural leases, natural light, parking, garden, open plan or separate, move the kitchen. And that's not even all of them. And honestly, that's exactly why property investing feels so confusing. Because eventually every decision starts to feel important. And when everything feels important, you either overthink everything or you do nothing at all. And I genuinely think this is where most people get stuck. Not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because they're trying to solve 100 different decisions at the same time. And the interesting thing is, most of those decisions barely move the outcome at all. Some decisions barely change the numbers, and others completely determine whether a deal works or fails. But when you don't know the difference, everything feels equally important. So people spend weeks analysing deals, months waiting for the perfect time, and years never actually moving forward. And honestly, I've been there myself. There were times early on where I'd spend weeks analysing deals and still not know what to do. I don't think people need more information, I think they need a framework. Because more information often creates confusion. A framework reduces noise. It tells you what to focus on, what to ignore, and what the next step should be. And honestly, a lot of the way I think about property probably comes from my time working at Ernst & Young. Because when I worked there, we used to use something called GAMX, which was basically a global framework for risk assessment and decision making across huge audits and transactions all over the world. And one thing it taught me was that complexity becomes manageable when you break things down into frameworks, processes, and key risk areas. You don't try to think about everything at once. You identify what matters most, what drives outcome, and what the next step should be. And over time, I realized property investing works exactly the same way. I used to think successful investors were just smarter than me. Eventually, I realized they were often just filtering decisions better. Most people think successful investing is about finding the perfect deal. I actually think it's about having a better decision-making process than most people. Because once you know what actually matters, what drives the outcome, and what to ignore, property becomes a lot simpler. And for me, there are really only 3 decisions that matter more than anything else. The first one is buying below market value. Because at the end of the day, property is a numbers game. If you overpay, everything else becomes harder. Your refinance becomes tighter, your margins disappear, and your risk goes up. And this matters even more today because the cost of borrowing has gone up massively over the last few years, which means the margin for error is much smaller than it used to be. The second decision is whether you can actually change what the property actually is. Because most people look at a property exactly as it is today. A 2-bed stays as a 2-bed and the layout stays the same. But the real opportunity in property comes from changing that. And this is where I think a lot of value is actually created. Not from nicer kitchens or expensive finishes or cosmetic upgrades, but from changing the category of the property. Turning a 1-bed into a 2-bed, a 2-bed into a 3-bed, or one unit into multiple units. Because the market doesn't really price finishes, it prices what something is. And this is exactly what I've seen on a recent deal, where one layout change added over £80,000 in value. Not because the market moved, but because we changed the property from a 2-bed into a genuine 3-bed. Same building, same location, same market, completely different outcome. And the third decision is whether the numbers work today. Not if rates come down, not if prices go up, not if the market improves, but right now. Because one of the biggest mistakes investors make is relying on the market to make the deal work. For years, people got away with this because money was cheap and prices were rising. But now, that assumption is dangerous. Because if your deal only works if something changes, then it doesn't really work. It's speculation. And honestly, most successful investing is quite boring. It's usually just good decision making repeated consistently. And this is why I simplify property using frameworks and decision trees. Instead of trying to analyze everything at once, I break down deals into stages. Does the location support the strategy? Can I buy at the right price? Can I change what the property is? Do the numbers work today? Is there a clear exit? And if the answer is no at any stage, I move on. I don't spend months trying to force the deal to work, and honestly, that's what removes the overwhelm. Because you stop trying to solve 100 different decisions at the same time. You just focus on the next right question. And that's why I've built templates and checklists and frameworks for almost every stage of the process. Offer templates, deal analysis frameworks, refurb checklists, estate agent qualification frameworks, due diligence checklists. Because one of the biggest things that slows people down is not knowing what to say, what to ask, and what to do next. And once you systemize those, property becomes less overwhelming. So if property investing feels confusing, it's not because it's impossible, it's because you're trying to focus on too many things at once, when in reality, only a handful of decisions actually determine whether a deal works. And once you understand those, everything becomes a lot clearer. Because the opportunities are still there, most people just don't recognize them. And honestly, that's where I help people. Not just finding deals, but simplifying the process and reducing overwhelm. And helping people make better decisions with more confidence. Because once you have the right framework, property starts to feel a lot less confusing.